On Friday, we had a lesson about conflict, and we spoke about two major different types of conflict, internal and external. In today's lesson, we'll consider the events of Chapter 8 and really focus in on the major internal conflict that Luke faces in that chapter. As a reminder, internal conflict happens when a character struggles with something within themselves. Usually, the character has two contradicting wants, needs, or desires. And what the choice that the character makes helps us as a reader figure out important information about that character moving forward. It might teach us something about the character's morals, about their character traits, or help us determine where the characterization of the story is heading. Often, when a character has to make a decision about something, we see that internal conflict really start to take shape. There are many reasons why a character might be having an internal conflict. A character might want something. We call that the character's desires. A character might actually need something. Maybe they require something for their physical, emotional, spiritual, or mental survival. A character may feel a sense of duty or obligation, leading to what they have to do to feel what is right or necessary, regardless of what action that they want to take. Characters also might have internal conflicts based out of fear, perhaps the assumed consequences of a circumstance or decision, pressure a character to act, or to remain inactive, which means to do nothing. Sometimes a character's expectations also create internal conflict. A character might feel obligated to do something that others want that character to do, and maybe that can be for social self-preservation. Let's analyze the conflict that you just read about in Chapter 8. In Chapter 8, Luke realizes that the blinds were left down. His family must have forgotten and probably just left him down on accident. When Luke realizes that, though, it's a huge game changer for him. He starts to have a major internal conflict where he debates with himself of whether or not he should go downstairs. Let's take a look at a quote from Chapter 8. He put out his right foot tentatively, not quite daring to put his full weight on it. The floor squeaked. He froze. Nothing happened, but he retreated anyway. Here, we really see that internal conflict take shape as Luke considers whether or not he should go out into the kitchen, if he should walk around downstairs freely. Luke can't decide yet, and that internal conflict is something he's really struggling with. So, in the next scene, Luke decides to make a plan. He starts to watch the houses out of his back vent and make sure everyone leaves. He actually puts scratches on the wall because he's counting for 28 people. That's the number of people that he knows from his observations live in the houses behind him. When he is sure that all 28 people have left for the day, all of a sudden his conflict starts to ease. He realizes that he can go downstairs freely, and he does so. Everything's going fine until Dad comes home unexpectedly and yells at Luke, which creates another conflict. Here, though, Luke is being yelled at by Dad. So this type of conflict we would call external. Now this is character versus character, where Luke has the conflict with Dad. But then when Luke goes upstairs, he's alone again. So we're back to an internal conflict. Luke is angry and eventually decides to look out the back vent again to prove to himself that he had every right to be downstairs and that he was being safe. When he looks out the back vent, something major happens in Chapter 8 that's very pivotal. Let's look at this quote. Luke sees a face, a child's face, in a house where two boys already lived. Since Luke has been so careful that day and made sure everyone in the neighborhood was gone, he starts to think that that face in the window is probably another third child. And that's going to be a major thing in the next few chapters to come. Let's go to our team's discussion post. In that team's discussion post on our ELA team channel, please respond to the following. Now that Luke sees a face in the window, what new internal conflict can you predict that he might have? Remember, if you don't have internet, type your response on a Word doc, save it to your computer, and you can copy and paste your comment right into the discussion post on your next in-person day at school. When we consider that question, now that Luke sees a face in the window, what new internal conflict can you predict that he might have? Think about the struggles that Luke will face in his own mind. If that face in the window is indeed a third child, Luke will probably have to struggle and think about, well, what is he going to do about that? So consider that internal conflict, consider Luke's options, and try to think to yourself, what kind of predictions can you make because of this? Tomorrow's lesson, we'll continue to make predictions as we read through chapters 9 and 10.